if I ask the question, what's the most undervalued or underrated, which one would you pick out that maybe, the normal person in the street wouldn't be aware of?
Well, probably, I mean, so maybe salt. Like so copper, I feel like copper is always underrated because you don't see much copper even though it's always there. I'm in like a kind of recording studio at the moment, and pretty much everywhere I look has it will have every device I look at will have copper in it, and including this computer that we're talking on, but you don't see it, and so people I don't think about it that much. Um, and also copper's great because it's like the first thing we ever mined in great quantities, and it's also now the key to electrification in the future, the key to net zero. Um, but I think salt I love because even people who think they know about this stuff don't pay much attention to salt. Salt is, for a lot of people, it's just a condiment. It's kind of might be interesting historically, and there's some great history stories about salt because the history of salt tells you a lot about humanity. Salt used to be very, very expensive to make, to evaporate away, and to refine. And as a result, salt was often used as a tool of power. It was used as a currency. It was used as a form of money. It was given as a ration to Roman soldiers. That's where the word salary comes from. They were given salt as part of their kind of remuneration. Um, and it was also something that was one of the first things to be taxed. So governments would tax and monopolize salt supply in order to wield power. It was all about power, salt and power. But yeah, what is so fascinating about it today is that the majority of salt that we get out of the ground even now, it's not used for going on your kitchen table, or indeed for going on the roads to de-ice the roads. It's used in chemicals. We get, I think, more than half of the salt that we produce, for instance, in this country, and people don't realize that we still mine a lot of salt in the UK. A lot of the vast majority of that goes into the chemicals supply chain, and it gets turned into things like chlorine. So without salt, we don't have drinking water. And I went to one of the most fascinating places I went to is where we turn salty water coming out of the ground into chlorine, which then purifies the drinking water for 98% of the country. The guy there said, if this place goes down, then within 7 days we are rationing drinking water, and it comes from salt. And so, and there's, for instance, there's chemicals like soda ash and caustic soda, which again, people within the trade have obviously heard of. They're the building blocks of a lot of chemistry, but outside, most people don't spend any much time thinking about that. Maybe they think about baking soda, but without soda ash, you don't have glass, you don't have a load of chemicals that we need today. Without caustic soda, it's just hard to know where to begin. You don't have paper without caustic soda because caustic soda is used to turn kind of the wood into a kind of pulpy thing that you can then make into paper. Um, these are like the foundations of the world we live in. You can't clean anything. You don't have bleach without salt because that's where it comes from. Um, and without bleach and without cleaning products, millions of people around the world would have died. We just, like that is part of the story of progress over the last century, is also making the world cleaner. And part of the way that we've made the world cleaner is by, having these widespread chemical products which we can use as detergents to clean the world. All of which comes from this I think really underrated substance and I think this is the nicest thing. We all have salt in our lives. We all have it in our lives. It's there in plain sight, but you don't spend much time thinking about it because it's just there. And that's what I wanted to do with each of these substances is to I mean, maybe you don't see much lithium, but you see a lot of steel, you see salt, you see sand when you go to the beach all the time. Um, you see iron, you see copper. I wanted to kind of underline that there is wonder in these substances, and they have a far deeper history, and that you can actually touch them. You can go and touch these things and then think to yourself, gosh, if it weren't for this substance I'm holding or I'm sprinkling over my chips, then the world would be a very different place, and we wouldn't have half of even the high tech stuff. Even your silicon chip couldn't be made without salt because you need chemicals, hydrochloric acid, really, that come from salt to as part of the refining process to take rock and turn it into pure silicon that goes into your smartphone. And the same thing with lithium. So with lithium, the way that we make lithium, particularly the stuff that comes out of Chile, um, the way they make that lithium, it comes out of the ground as a kind of brine and it gets precipitated away over a long period. The way they're doing that is basically the same as the way the ancient Phoenicians, thousands of years ago, used to make salt. So the lithium that goes in your smartphone battery, there's a good chance that that was produced in the same way that ancient people many thousands of years ago used to make their salt. And I find that quite profound and quite exciting. And so that was just like, well, this is just one tiny bit of the many stories I came across, which I guess is why it wasn't such a drag to write this book, because it's like there's just so much stuff in there, and I had to cut loads of stuff because there was, it was getting a bit too long. But it's all exciting material, I think.